What do marine sanitation, rigging, Gelcoat, hatches, and rod holders have in common? Stick with us and you'll find out as we cover our summer 2021 repairs.
We're trying to deodorize the holding tank system that we're looking at. This is the holding tank for the port hull, and two things we're trying to do. One, repair leaks from poor connections in this area where the tank fitting goes into the tank and then along these hoses, but also replace the hoses with those that are less permeable. And so that's what we've done today. It's tight working conditions and kind of awkward, but we think we've made a pretty big improvement today.
So this is the hose that we put in at Saniflex Odor Shield, 10-year warranty. I don't know what's in the warranty for a hose, but it is a Raritan product. Made in Italy, a little hard to get, so you just gotta make sure you special order it. So we were also planning on replacing this 2-inch hose, which goes from the tank down out the through hole. However, the previous installers had 5200 around the clamps, around everything, and so we're just not willing to take that project on. We're gonna hope the project that we did on the hose replacement and the fittings replacement will take care of any of the odor, because that's where it was leaking, and hopefully this 2-inch hose has not permeated with odor too bad. This is the book that we used to learn a little bit more about marine sanitation before we dove into this lovely project. It's a pretty good book. Some of it is a little bit old, but it covers all the different types of systems, and it even has some parts breakdowns and things that you might find handy. But there's a lot in here about odors and where they could be coming from. See, I've earmarked the pages. So we, by method of elimination, we've started at the easiest things to fix and did not have any success. So we ended up replacing the hoses on that tank. Interestingly enough, we also had a clog down here, which was preventing total elimination of that waste when we're out to sea. So that obviously compounded the problem with that hoses being compacted.
We replaced this halyard with a thinner Dyneema, because it's a double halyard, goes up and down. And so that makes it a little more.
Does it twist ever when it's coming up or down?
Not much,
Okay.
hardly
so that's not
ever.
the issue. Okay.
And then there's the reefing lines, and the reefing lines, double back.
Yeah, it's like one line does everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And while it's convenient and all, they're really hard to manage.
Sure.
Now, we also think that the lines are too thick.
Yeah, it does seem unnecessarily thick.
Yeah.
Especially as it gets older, it gets really hard to manage.
Yeah, so that makes it even harder because it's so thick.
Yeah.
So, if we couldn't redesign the reefing the way it's done and still be able to manage it from the helm, then we're just going to go with thinner lines on it.
Yeah.
And hope that that'll handle it for us.
Okay.
So those are the two main things up here, I think. I can't think of anything else up here, Dawn, can you?
Just the fact that our Jenny sheets always get caught on the mast.
Yeah, whenever they're crossing, they get caught anywhere and everywhere.
They just get wrapped up.
Yeah, whether it be on these lines, whether it be on the cleat. There was a cleat right there. I took it off because it kept catching it all the time. But part
just
of
when
that,
you're tacking, or
yeah,
yeah, okay.
Always when we tack. I mean, not always. I mean, sometimes we manage it better than other times. Right.
Yeah.
Also, pretty hefty sheet on that as well.
They look pretty tired, this one.
Yeah, I mean, we're not sure the age of them. We've been on the boat 3 years, and all except for the halyard, we're on the boat when we can.
I believe, though, that they put on new lines on right before we bought it. So that was May of 2018.
15, yeah.
Yep.
This one might be, depending on how long they are, you might just end for end this one before it completely busts.
Yeah, that one we could. The other one we already did.
Yeah.
So,
This,
and
when
then,
the sail's being lowered, do you find that any of the hardware is sticking on the track, like any of the slides?
no, I don't think so. We feel pretty good about those.
We did have.
It's really manhandling that double halyard down.
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening with it.
But it comes down to about, what, 10 feet, 12 feet?
So basically, it runs out of weight on the sail to actually pull it down enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did have a situation once where some of the cars, the screws were loose and it got stuck.
Yeah.
So we had to shimmy up there and
Sure.
screw them back in.
Oh,
But
sure.
That's how it works, though.
But I mean that may just be the nature of the beast on that.
Yeah. Well, so one thing that, like, in a race boat situation, what we would do is you'd kind of figure out where that problem point is, whichever car that is, and you'd actually have a down line. So you'd have a line that's just tied to that one car.
Yeah.
That's led through a block. It can even be taken away when you're not using it, but that you can physically just pull that as you're lowering, pull that to help the cars get
Gotcha.
the rest of the way down.
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't want to be up here especially if it's rougher.
Right.
And that just solves the issue, and it doesn't have to be a fancy line. It can be anything that you can wrap around your hand.
No, I'm
It all
certain.
needs a little bit of persuasion.
I'm certainly open to you guys looking at the cars too and just giving me your opinion
Sure.
of that.
Yep.
Because they're sliders, they're not ball bearings.
Yeah. That's especially these older ones. It's the same. They pretty much have the same system on, like, I'd say 3/4 of the cats from this generation, where it's just the slides, and they just get worn out too.
Yeah. So if that's an issue too, then
Yeah.
So we're going to leave probably in a year,
Okay.
and so we're looking at re-rigging for that,
Sure.
and probably sales too.
Yep.
Well, definitely sales too.
Gotcha.
And then the only other thing we have is a parasail, and we use it a lot.
Where do you fly it from?
So we use 2 guys. We put a block up there on the pad eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we put a block on each of those pad eyes, and
Yeah.
we run the guy and the sheet all the way aft.
Yep.
We go through 2 blocks on the pad eye aft, and then up
Yeah,
to the
back
top.
up. Yeah. We did one of these recently and had like the 4 or 5 foot bowsprit.
Yeah, we don't unfortunately have that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
we added
was-
in some clutches for him because he sailed it single handed, and he wanted more control over everything, so we added in 2 more clutches.
So we did that too,
Yeah.
We're welcome for you to have a look at that.
Yeah. Well, you tell me, you're the ones that sail it. So if
Yeah.
there's
I think we're pretty comfortable with what we have
Yeah.
there.
we recently had our rigging inspection done, not for any particular survey reason or anything, but just as a safety precaution. And we passed with flying colors, except for a couple things which we'll share with you. And then there's a few things that we knew needed fixed or replaced or upgraded that we'll cover in this video as well. So, Captain?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we did was on the short stays. We have 2 sets of stays on this boat. The long ones that go all the way to the top of the mast. The short stays, they only go 3/4 up the mast. And on the short stays, we did find that there were broken strands down at the bottom of the cable, down where the turnbuckle is. So unfortunately, we needed to replace both of those. At the same time, on the turnbuckle, those things were getting close to tightening as far as you could get them. So it was time to change those anyway. We notice when we sail, of course, that those things are flopping a little bit like a jumping rope, and certainly that's not the position you want to be in. So got that all squared away. They've already got those installed and did that in a matter of 1 week for us. Here's the new short stays that we replaced. So all new stays, and then you can see we got a real nice broad distance in there for some future adjustments if we need to on it. And these were really close to almost bottoming out originally. Not quite that close, but they were close anyway. You can see over here on the long stage, those are obviously turned down a good bit more. So they're still in good shape, and they said those things were fine, but these over here, we definitely needed to replace.
Now, it's funny, you don't really notice that you have a strand loose until you get the covering out of the way.
So these
this
broken
one is
strands.
fine, obviously, but when you are checking your rigging, make sure that you move that covering out of the way and give it a good look.
Up here on the mast area, they of course went all the way to the top. They checked all the rigging from top to bottom. That included the tri-lights that are up at the top, the anchor light that's up at the top, all the rigging that's up at the top as well. The only thing we're going to change up there is we are going to put what is recommended as an anchor swivel at the very top of this double line halyard that we have, and that'll help take some of that twist out of it that naturally gets into it each and every time you winch up that main. So that'll be a good change for us as well. And then just a general inspection around the boat. They obviously looked at all of the shackles, including on the sail, including on all the blocks for the reefing lines. Those are things that, of course, you should check just about every time that you go sail, because they will loosen up. So these shackles will loosen up over time. You need to come in and tighten those up every now and then. And then, of course, it also is advisable to put some seizing wire on there too. So if you'll notice on the other side of this one, that one had already come really loose and it was almost bent, and it already is bent. So we need to replace that with a little bit larger one and put some seizing wire on it as well. As far as the slides go, they are what they are. These have some age on them. We find that when we get the sail all the way down to roughly a quarter of it left, we have a real hard time getting the rest of that sail down. That's a combination. There's not enough weight on the sail to pull that halyard down. And then it could also be, of course, the slides are not as slick as they used to be. So you could replace those slides, but the other idea on that is you could possibly put a downhaul, just basically a rope that is tied to where that last little place is and won't come down, and be able to pull that down real easily from up here. But unfortunately today, we have to come forward to be able to get that sail completely down. So we'll think about whether we want to replace those slides or not, but I for one, probably not. Other general ideas, this clutch is in bad shape. It's cracked, it's bent, so it's time to replace that one.
Which was caused by a Genoa sheet getting caught on that. Our Genoa sheets constantly get caught when we're tacking.
Right, so we have issues with that we're trying to deal with as well. And then in general, we have trouble, it is difficult to refit. It is difficult sometimes on some of the other main sheets and on the jib sheets. And we learned really that the previous owner on the boat replaced all of them with some nice new line and all, but they went really, really large on all of them. I mean, it's probably close to, I think, 16 millimeter or more. So really thick lines on everything. So we've already replaced the halyard. You'll notice this nice thin line on here compared to, look at that thick line that they have on the reefing lines on there. So we're going to replace it all. We're going to replace the main sheet, we're going to replace the reefing lines, and we're going to replace the jib sheets as well and go to a thinner line. We think that'll make everything in general a lot easier. And then it'll fit into each of the clutches that we have as well better.
Thinner but stronger, Stephen. What line are we going to? It's the Endura braid.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be 12 millimeter, excuse me, I can't remember. It could be 10 millimeter.
Yeah, we'll put the specs down in the comments area.
So also we mentioned we're going to change the main sheets to a thinner line. We think that's going to help us in general in being able to sheet the boom where we need it to be. These fiddle blocks, we've broken, I think, 2 of them now. And their age is part of it for sure. So you certainly have some UV and some sun, but you can see how it's already cracked off over here. It's chipping away over here. We had 2 that we've broken already, and one time the sheet got caught on the inside here and bent it out, broke it off, and so that one was shot as well. So it was recommended by the rigger that we, obviously replace these, but then also consider a totally aluminum block instead of having this plastic block on here. So that's where we're headed with that, and we think that's going to help us a lot as well and give us a little bit more life expectancy out of those fiddle blocks.
Plus the line diameter, we're wondering if that's part of the problem as well.
Yeah, these are just really thick lines, too thick. They don't need to be that thick. You'll notice over on the sheet diverter block that we have on the deck, you'll see that in just a moment, where both of those sheets for the port and the starboard are literally squeezed inside of that block. So that's a big problem there. I mean, you can see how that is really sort of squeezed in there, and it's hard to get those to move by one another. So we're going thinner on that as well. We think that's going to help a lot.
Now these lines were all replaced before we bought the boat 3 years ago, and obviously they replaced them with the wrong diameter. They are even thicker than his clutches are rated for. We haven't had huge issues, but a couple of our clutches have broken, the springs have popped out. We do think that it is causing issues, so that is something that we are going to fix before we head off into the sunset.
So all in all, the whole idea was to get a safety inspection. Number one, we want to make sure that we're ready to go for some long offshore trips. But all in all, we're in great shape. I mean, they even said for the age of the boat and the age of the rigging on it that they were impressed with how well it was. And they told us another boat they looked at recently from the top to the bottom, they found 47 problems on the boat, just from the top of the mast down to the bottom. So we felt really great about what we have. And some of these are simply to make life easier. The thinner sheets are going to make it easier to pull the sails down. It's going to make it easier to reef the sails and make it easier to handle the main sheet as well. So we feel real good about it.
And we won't mention that boat name that had all those issues.
No.
They know who they are if they're watching this.
Right.
We're also planning on replacing our sails before we actually go sailing, and
sailing long distance.
Long distance, yeah, excuse me. So there's nothing wrong with our sails. They are really in great shape. They perform well, but they are starting to show a little bit of age, and we would just rather have the sails be top-notch, ready to rock when we leave the country.
Yeah, so we're going to be in great shape. New lithium batteries, new solar panels, all the rigging inspection, new short stays that are put on, long stays are fine, changing out all the lines, so we'll be in top-notch shape when we leave.
Some of you may find these changes not necessary, but we really want to be sure we are so safe that there's just little chance that anything can go wrong.
We also had some Gelcoat repair done on Pilar this past summer. Not anything super major, but we had a lot of little chips that were bothering us. Some of them went right down to the unfinished fiberglass. And then we had eyebrow with a probably 4-inch crack in it. So we had that repaired. So she is looking all good. We also had the boat waxed. And there is a product called Battleshield paint sealant wax that one of our boat maintenance crews used that we really have found to be the best. It creates the most shiny. It's called Battleshield paint sealant wax, and it's got a blend of polymers, resin, and zonal that forms a durable protective coating. So this is the one that has given us the best shine, and we really recommend using this.
Have to replace the hatch today. This is the smaller hatches over the heads on the port side of the boat. They're the same on either side of the boat. They got 4 of these smaller hatches on the boat, but I was cleaning the boat. You can see that glaze in there, which is probably a factor in what happened anyway, but I stepped on the corner, and when I did, cracked it right there along that line. We did, do an emergency epoxy job right there, but I think it got stepped on again and broke off that epoxy job. So did find the replacement online, and it was good because it's the full replacement. This is I actually got a cover on it, so it is nice clean glass on there. But the full replacement's good because it already has the hatch handle. It's got both of the hinges already included with it, so especially if you were offshore and you needed to make a quick replacement, that would be the way to go for sure, to have that complete spare already readily available.
So the ship supply captain, which is me a lot of times, sourced this, and it was just really a matter of having the right part number. Once you had the right part number, we actually were able to order this, and Defender got it for us. So it was simple at that point. Getting the right part number is not always easy.
But it is really convenient. I mean, easy replacement. All it is these screws and bolts there that are in the hinge. You pop off one nut, one bolt out of there, and then of course the whole thing comes right out. Easy peasy. So very easy to accomplish that. And we'll proceed with putting the new one right in. Slide it right in there. We'll be in good shape, ready to go.
If any hatch was to break, this is probably the least problematic one, as if water got in there, it's just the bathroom, so it wouldn't really matter.
Plus, for a little while when we did it, I hung a rod across here and a 5-gallon bucket on it, so any water would have gone right in that bucket.
Which fell in the middle of the night, made a huge noise.
Yeah, of course, bump your head on a 5-gallon bucket when you go in there.
Yeah.
But we'll be in good shape here in just a few minutes. It's a hard hole to hit. There we go. This part's going to be kind of hard. I have about 4 or 5 of these lightweight rods that are kind of laying all over the boat. They're on the shelf in the master. They go on the bed in the port. We have to move them time and time again. So I did talk Don into allowing me to put more rod holders on the boat. Still trying to make a sport fishing boat out of this catamaran so that I can stow those out of the way. So you'll notice we've got the back end of the one rod holder there already in place. I'm going to put the forward in, and then we'll give you a shot of that when we're done with the forward piece. You're going to see how neat this is and out of the way.
And I would like everyone's opinion on whether or not they think these Velcro panels are going to be okay.
Hang on, we hit the holding board up here.
Oh, you did that.
So we know that aft one is going to stay. Of course, you got to take it out each time that you move this panel, but that's okay. And
all
then
right,
the forward
that'll
panel,
be fine then.
Forward panel, I'm counting on the board to hold it, and it's only the lightweight end of the rod anyway. So
That'll be fine then.
yeah, I'll show you 4 that'll be up there here shortly.
That's it for the boat maintenance projects. There's always more, but that's it for this video anyway. So I hope you find information in here useful. Send us a comment if you have any questions. And as always, we truly appreciate if you subscribe to our channel and click the bell if you want notifications. Otherwise, you'll just see us in your feed, hopefully, if YouTube does what they say they are supposed to do. All right, see you next time.